Why, hello there, how are you today? Awesome Soul here, and we have some balance changes that have made their way into the game fairly recently as well, only a couple days ago, though it kind of flew under the radar for some, so of course I will highlight them here and kind of give my thoughts on them, because I've been playing around with them on stream and kind of giving my thoughts there, but I will go ahead and give my thoughts in video form as well, because not everyone watches my live streams. Of course though, if you do want to watch them, link can be found down below. Also, apologies for showing off the Kerotoxin once more. I think this is the third time in a row I've used this bot. It's just kind of backup footage that I've had for a while. I've been meaning to get more done, but finally catching up on work for my second channel kind of got me distracted. So hopefully you don't mind. Though this is the very last piece of usable footage, so after this I definitely do need to get some more. Anyways, behind the scene magic out of the way, let's go into what exactly these changes entail. Starting off though, they do make clear by saying we may make additional balance change tweaks next week based on any feedback they get from this week. So if you do have feedback for them, make sure you head on over to the forums to inform them of your decision. But yes, the main push here with this update is giving middle range robots a bit more viability as far as damage boost goes. As well, they've done some other little tweaks, but the other big thing is, of course, as you see by the title, balance changes to the modules. First up though, what they classify as mid-range bots, interestingly enough, is 1,350 to 1,750. Most people would kind of just quickly skip over that, but I find that is pretty interesting to know that FreeJam themselves consider mid-range bots to be in that CPU bracket. But anyways, what they've done is, quote, "We've raised the damage boost curve to make mid-range robots more viable. Damage will drop off more sharply at higher CPU levels." And the image for this on screen is that the old damage boost curve was the blue line, whereas the new damage boost curve is the red line. So this is not only a buff to mid-range robots, it's also a nerf to super low-range robots. Because as you can see, around the 350 to 650 mark, they've actually lowered the damage boost in that section. So that's not too terrible, as most of my quote-unquote low CPU bots are really only around 700 to 800. So they were already past that point anyways. What this is going to affect is those pogo bots, basically one leg and a really powerful gun. So hopefully we'll see a bit less of those, though we haven't really seen that many of them anyway. Or at least I haven't seen too many of them. Though they still do pop up from time to time, and they were still fairly annoying. Annoying, not really overpowered, I would say. Definitely a thorn in your side though. But yes, this is also a buff to high-range CPU robots as well, because you can see the red curve for even something that's 950 CPU is still a little bit higher than the old curve, meaning that the majority of your builds have now gotten an increase to their damage. And I'm curious, have you noticed this much in combat? Or is this change not quite enough to make them more viable, as they've tried to do with this update? But anyways, going on from there, a little bit of a miscellaneous update is that hover turn speed has increased. I have seen a few people saying that hovers feel a little weird now, although it was mainly just one or two people, but no real complaints from other people. And the one time that I have actually used hovers for myself, I haven't really had any troubles with them. I thought they were actually quite nice. From there, we go into the much larger section of the module changes. And actually, every module, if I'm not mistaken, now has a bit of a change. So, starting off, we have the Disk Shield module, which overall, I would say is getting a pretty big nerf here, though everything also got a buff, but I'll get into that in a second. So, starting off with what's changed with the Disk Shield, the range. This is the casting range. You know, where you press the button and it shoots out the shield. This is the maximum range. It's down from 50 units to 25 units. So this is a nerf of 1/2. So it's only 1/2 of the range it used to. I'm honestly not too pleased about this. The Disk Shield was a really nice tool for, say, medics who wanted a nice little team support addition to their robot. Now the Disk Shield is really relegated to an actual personal shield rather than a supportive shield that you can cast on faraway allies who might be in trouble. Not only that though, the disc shield duration has dropped from 10-second uptime to 7.5-second uptime. The other bad thing that I have noticed about this is something that needs to be addressed. The sort of blinking when the shield is about to go down has been removed, most likely because it was set to, I think, 9 seconds. It would blink and then go down at 10 seconds. Obviously, at 7.5 seconds, it's not able to reach the 9-second point where it would start that. So if you are going to keep this duration at 7.5, which again, I don't know how I feel about, you probably want to start that at 6.5. So if anyone at FreeJam is listening, make sure you fix the whole blinking problem, just to make sure people know when their shield is actually going down. Though the slight buff here is something that pretty much every module has gotten, and that is a CPU cost reduction. So the disc shield module now costs 205 CPU instead of 225 CPU, which is still pretty nice, but I think the nerf to the disc shield module might have been a little bit too much, though I don't know. It was a pretty powerful module, but I'm not sure this was the way of doing it. Might be a little bit overkill, like I said. Anyways, Blink has also gotten some changes. So it has gotten some nerfs, but it's also gotten some buffs. The range has been dropped, so this is the maximum range you can blink to is now 60 units instead of 80 units. However, the cooldown has been reduced. So now it is a 50-second cooldown rather than a 60-second cooldown, which is fairly nice. It'll give you a little bit more time to use this thing. And as far as a CPU cost nerf goes, it's actually a decently large one. So it's gone from 285 to now being 255. So that's some CPU you could spend on other weapons, or you could just use that as a little damage boost bonus, which will play into the other thing that was added in the update with the whole damage boost curve change. The other thing is something, honestly, that I am actually pretty pleased with overall, and that is the changes to the power module. So the cooldown for it has gone from 60 seconds, which was a little bit crazy, but it's now 30 seconds. So that was cut in half. However, the other thing that was cut in half was the power restored. It used to restore 100% of your power, but now it only restores 50% of your power. So overall, this isn't really a nerf so much as it is a change, though it is a slight nerf, I guess we can say. However, the playstyle that it now fosters is actually one that I kind of prefer over the old one. Because of the cooldown change, you can now pop this thing a lot more. Because before, when I was using the power module, you had to make sure that you find the opportune time to use it. And a lot of the times I found when I died, I was like, you know what? I probably should have used the power module there. But now that the cooldown is only 30 seconds, you're gonna have this thing up a lot more often, giving you far more opportunities to actually use it. And it's a lot less risky to actually use it. Though I'm sure this one will be hotly debated in the comments. So what do you think of the power module changes specifically? Of course though, on top of those changes, they have also gotten a little bit of a nerf in the CPU cost. Or I guess a buff, because it is lowered. A buff is usually a good thing. Anyways, the CPU cost is down from 165 to now 150, which is pretty nice. The EMP module has also gotten some changes, and that is only in the form of CPU. It was 195, but it is now 175. The Ghost module, though, is one that honestly needs a lot more help, and it certainly did not get that in this update, though it did get a little bit of a CPU drop, going from 255 to 230. Hopefully, some things can be addressed with the Ghost module. I think it's just kind of flawed at the moment. Really, the only purpose it would be used for is keeping yourself safe from lock-ons. Just because the sound that it makes when it's trying to sneak up on someone is a dead giveaway. And not only that, if you are facing a certain backdrop, like certain colors exemplify your bot a lot more. And it is honestly still pretty easy to tell that your bot is there. So what should happen is lowering the sound, or either completely removing it, or what they could also do is lower the sound a little bit, but make the invisibility effect far more prominent, so you're pretty much invisible. Currently, the shimmer is just a little bit too much. And the last part that was changed was the Tesla Nova and the Tesla Ripper. Their energy consumption was lowered a little bit by 7.5%. So Tesla users rejoice! Your deadly paper fans can now actually do a little bit more damage overall in a team fight. Of course, without running out of power, that is. They didn't get a damage buff, it's just you can deal more damage because their energy consumption is lowered. Of course though, something I have highlighted many a time, the Tesla blades are in desperate need of a health buff. The reason they were nerfed in the first place is no longer in the game. Shurikens and lawnmowers and all that jazz, not prominent at all anymore. And finally, something you've probably noticed? If you somehow weren't aware of these changes, you should know that Battle Arena games have felt a lot faster, and that's because the game time has been reduced from 15 minutes to 12 minutes. And the domination mechanic now ends the game a lot faster. This is something I'm not entirely pleased with. I think it should be raised a little bit, if not back to where it was before. So, the domination, meaning that if you've held all 3 points for enough time, the energy your team receives in Protonium will increase quite a lot. It's basically a fast way to end the game if the enemy team is struggling. Though it's not necessarily the enemy team struggling, perhaps it's just a really nice push that the enemy team has done, but your team is not really struggling that much. However, now, if they're somehow dominating, it will end the game in 1 minute. Not only will it end the game in 1 minute, if you somehow manage to get your point back, this means that the enemy team has gained a lot more points. So I think changing this to 2 minutes would be not too bad. Previously though, it was 3 minutes. And the last thing, which does make sense now that the overall game time has been reduced, the Protonium Eruption now appears at 8 minutes and 4 minutes. It used to be 10 minutes and 5 minutes. Overall though, I do like those changes, and for the most part, I like the module changes, except for maybe the disc shield and kind of the blink. Not too pleased about how the range was nerfed. And as far as the damage curve goes, I think it's pretty good as well. But as I always ask, what do you think of all of these changes? Do you like them? Do you like some of them? Do you hate all of them? Or somewhere in the middle of all that? Very curious to know. Anyways, with that guys, I of course have been the Awesome Soul. I thank you all so very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.